Okay, today we're going to continue what we started with the previous lesson, and we're going to actually graph quadratic equations in standard form. We will actually learn 3 different forms of quadratic equations, but this is the first. If you recall, yesterday or in the previous lesson we talked about how to find the axis of symmetry by using the formula the opposite of b over 2a. So that's where we're going to start today. Once you have that, we're going to plug that in to find the y value and then the vertex. Using the vertex, we're going to make a table and pick 2 values to the right of the vertex and then plot those points and reflect them. Okay, so 4 steps to follow. Let's go ahead and try this. It'll make a little bit more sense. Okay, so if you remember from the previous lesson, we are going to go ahead and label our a, b, and c, so we can use those. So I have a, which is 1, b is -6, and c is 13. So to find the axis of symmetry, we're going to do the opposite of b. So since it's a -6, it's going to be positive. And then it's always over 2 times a. And in this problem, our a is 1. Okay, so 6 over 2 times 1 simplifies to 6 over 2. So 6 over 2 gives us 3. That means our axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 3, not a equals 3. So we have x equals 3. So that means if I go over to 1, 2, 3, my axis of symmetry, and you can draw this as a solid line if you'd like, is a vertical line, and that's where the graph is going to be cut in half. Now, to find the vertex, we're going to plug this in and simplify. So we're going to do 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 13. If you plug this into your calculator, we're going to get 4. So 9 minus 18 is -9, and -9 plus 13 is 4. So I have the point 3, 4. We're going to go ahead and plot that on the graph right away. We're going to go over 3, up 4, 2, 3, 4. So there's our first point. And that's our vertex. To find other points to graph, I'm actually going to put my vertex here in my table. We already graphed that. And I'm going to use 2 more points. And what I always tell students is if I'm here at 3, 4, I'm going to pick the next 2 numbers to the right. So from positive 3, we're going to move over 1, which puts us at 4. And then we're going to move over 1 more, which puts us at 5. And we're going to go ahead and plug those both into the original equation, just like we did with the vertex, to see what we get for our y value. So I'm going to do 4 squared minus 6 times 4 plus 13 and simplify. So 16 minus 24 plus 13. So I get 5 for an answer there. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that point, 4, 5. And then I'm going to go ahead and plug in 5 and see what happens. I'm going to show this in a different color just so you can tell the difference. So I plug in 5, I have 5 squared minus 6 times 5 plus 13. So 25 minus 30 plus 13. So -5 plus 13 gives me 8. So I can go ahead and plot that point. So I have 5, 8. So at 5, we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so for the first 2 steps, we had the previous lesson. Opposite of b over 2a gives me my axis of symmetry. I'm going to plug that in to find my vertex, and then I'm going to put my vertex at the top of the table and pick 2 more x values to plug in to find these points. Now, if you remember from our definitions that we started with earlier in the unit, the axis of symmetry splits the graph in half. So if I have a point right here, that means I'm also going to have a point at that same spot on the other side of the line. So we're going to do the same thing with this point up here, going over 2 the other direction. We should also have 2. I'll point there. So my parabola, I apologize, really bad drawing, looks like this. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect, but it looks pretty good. Okay, so that 4th step was just to reflect the points across the axis of symmetry so that we have 5 points on our graph. Okay, let's do one more problem. So same thing. We're going to start by finding our axis of symmetry. So to do that, we're going to label our a, b, and c. So A is negative 1, B is negative 2, C is negative 4, and we're going to do the opposite of B over 2A. So the opposite of B means that becomes positive 2 over 2, that's part of the formula, and A is negative 1. So 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, and if I divide it, I get negative 1. So my axis of symmetry, this time, is at negative 1. Now last time I drew, I have to undo that. Last time I drew a dotted line. If you want to draw a solid line, you can. I'm going to go ahead and draw a dotted line again, just because it's easier on here. So we have a dotted line for my axis of symmetry. And that's for step 1. Step 2. Go ahead and plug that value that you just found into the original equation. So we have negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 minus 4. So negative 1 squared is 1. That negative is just going to hang out front. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2, and then minus 4. So negative 1 plus 2 is 1, minus 4 is negative 3. So I have negative 1, negative 3 for vertex. So negative 1, negative 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so first 2 steps, pretty easy. From there, I'm going to put my vertex in the top of my table, and I'm going to start at this point, and I'm going to take a step over to the right. So if I move over to the right, my x value is now 0. I'm going to do that one more time to use 1. And I'm going to plug those values in to find some more y values. So going back to the original equation, we're going to do plug in 0 first. So negative 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 4. Well, all of this here is 0. So I actually get negative 4 for an answer. So 0, negative 4 is my next point. Now I'm going to plug in 1, so negative 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 4. So 1 squared is 1, stays negative. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, and I have negative 4. So if I combine all those together, I get negative 7. So 1, negative 7, so 5, 6, 7, should be right there. So that's step 3. For step 4, we need to reflect this to the other side. So we're going to go ahead and take this point here and reflect it to the other side of the line so it matches up. And same thing with this point, it's 2 steps away, so we're going to go 2 more steps over, reflect it, and then draw our parabola. Okay, so 4 steps to follow. Go ahead and do this guided practice problem and the second one. Once you are finished with both of those, have those checked and you will receive your homework. Today's the first day we're going to graph quadratics in standard form. On Monday, we're actually going to do a little bit more, especially with applications. So make sure you really understand this. If you have any questions, raise your hand and ask. When you finish the guided practice problems, have us check them out and see how you're doing. Have a great day.